Once again, I will be continuing my Transformers binge watch before the new film releases, and today I had the pleasure of watching Age of Extinction for the first time. The best thing that I can say about this movie is that it gives me hope that The Last Night will be amazing, because so far these movies have consistently alternated on whether they're good or not. I really enjoyed the original, Revenge of the Fallen was Dark of the Movie was good, and this one was rough. A major part of my distaste for it came from the fact that for much of the movie it felt like almost an entirely different world. Basically all of these characters that we grew to know over the past 3 movies disappeared, with no explanation at all. There was no reasoning for why they were no longer a part of the story, and instead we got a brand new cast of characters that I had no attachment to. The only characters that I still cared about were the Autobots. The film made sure to connect the story with the previous ones by showing how the Battle of Chicago changed the world, but that was the only connection that I felt to the previous stories. Other than that, it could have been a completely different Optimus Prime and Bumblebee who were never a part of those events that took place in the previous 3 movies, and I would have believed it. So going beyond that, there were a lot of other aspects of the movie that confused me a lot. They mentioned the Battle of Chicago, sometimes as if it took place weeks ago, and other times as if it was a decade ago. The city is obviously rebuilt here, so it's been some time since then, but I could never figure out how much time exactly has taken place between the movies. And it feels like so much changed with the Autobots in that span of time, something that was barely explained and mostly just glossed over with a vague answer. When we last saw them, the Autobots and military were working together, but now they're actively hunting them alongside Decepticons. I could never understand why this was happening. And then the government was shown to be working alongside Lockdown, who was this brand new character as far as I'm aware, but when he was first introduced, it made me feel like he was someone I should have known. We get little to no explanation on who he was until halfway through the movie when they finally describe him as a mercenary. That I think was the main problem with this movie. I was confused out of my mind for the first half of the movie because there was no explanation as to why anything was happening. And then when we finally start to get some details, I've already struggled to comprehend and enjoy the story for an hour. I could never appreciate the details behind the story, like the Transformium, real clever name there, or the seed and Lockdown's purpose. And the CIA dudes, none of it was interesting for me until we got to the climax of the movie, and by then it was basically just action for the rest of the film anyway. And I don't think this would have been as big of a problem for me as it was if it wasn't a brand new cast of characters. I wasn't familiar with any of the military personnel or the antagonists, and there were only a handful of recognizable Autobots. We've got Prime and Bumblebee, Ratchet dies early on, and then the other ones I don't remember being in previous films. And if they were, they didn't have a big enough role for me to care about them at all. Although I will admit the dinosaurs at the end were cool. They did feel out of place. A lot of the first half of the movie focuses on Cade and his daughter, and even though I wasn't really into their story for much of the movie, by the time we got to the end, the 2 of them and her boyfriend did come around on me. So assuming they're the leads in the next movie as well, that'll make it easier for me to watch. But again, for much of the movie I wasn't invested in their characters' stories, and even when Lucas dies, I didn't care that much. I was more intrigued by the new technology than feeling anything over his death. The new technology in this one did make it feel much more of a modern film, so that may have been part of the reason I didn't enjoy it as much. It felt like it was leaning much more heavily into trying to make a well-crafted story, and the action suffered as a result. It wasn't as grand or spectacular as previous movies, and the music, while it had moments, wasn't nearly as good either. So yeah, it took a while for this one, but eventually things came together and the ending was bearable. I have hope for The Last Night, but I'm keeping my expectations low because I've heard the final few films of this franchise kind of fall off a cliff. Comment down below what you think of the 4th Transformers movie, and what movie reviews you'd like to see in the future. Remember to like the video, and subscribe for more movie content, and follow me on my various platforms listed in the description. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you again tomorrow.